maybe you ought to try the bracket thing.
Hardly. Fox News alert now. We're confirming what could be the future for the U.S. military in Afghanistan. Get this, Jennifer Griffin late last night reporting the U.S. plan is to keep 10,000 troops in that war at the end of this year. There are currently more than 30,000 there. Then the suggestion is to bring that number down to 0 by the time President Obama leaves office. General Jack Keane, retired 4-star general, Fox News military analyst, and good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Bill.
If this is true, what does it mean?
Well, that would be dire consequences. We'd be repeating much the same mistakes that we made with our ill-conceived policy in Iraq, which has led to disastrous consequences that are being played out right before our eyes when we abandon the Iraqis. If we do that in Afghanistan, either in 2014 or in 2016, we can expect much the same results. Taliban forcing themselves on the Afghan people. And here's a second big problem. We're conducting a war against the al-Qaeda in Pakistan from bases in Afghanistan. We need the intelligence we gather, and we need the footprint and the security to be able to conduct that war successfully. We pull out, we put that at risk as well, and that is a direct threat to the United States if we're not successful.
Politically speaking, you know there's a big equation involved when it comes to politics here. Is this how the president says at the end of his second term, I ended 2 wars?
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, the focus has been on ending the war as opposed to winning it. That's what Gates was talking about in his book On Duty, and how frustrating it was for him to transition from one president who wanted to win to another one who wanted to end it. And the focus is always on ending it. These military commanders, I can tell you, they're very frustrated. They don't get a question that goes something like this, Bill. Tell me what the forces are you need and how long you need them so we don't squander the gains. I don't want this thing blowing up in our face in a couple of years. Make sure we do the right thing here as we're transitioning out of Afghanistan. That question is not asked. What is done is the number that they provide and the length of time they want to keep the forces there are challenged. This number of 10,000 is below what they had recommended. This is the minimum.
Listen, that's a revelation, General. And you wonder how you effectively fight now if you're told what to do, as opposed to being asked what is the proper course based on the facts of the ground. I mean, you dealt with that your entire career, did you not?
Yeah, absolutely. It just doesn't happen, Bill. Time and time again, these commanders are not able to put forward the kind of recommendations that they need to guarantee success and security in Afghanistan and in the region at large. And they're challenged based on the premise that it's more important to end as it is to win. And that's what we're really dealing here, and probably a political legacy, although that's not my expertise.
Listen, from a military perspective, if that's the questions that are not being asked, how does that affect your ability to strategize, to fight, to win?
Well, the fact of the matter is, ever since the president escalated the war in Afghanistan in 2009, he's made one decision after another to tie the military's one hand behind their back. So they've always been playing with half a deck, so to speak. And that's what they're doing here. They are frustrated by this time and time again because it makes it so much more difficult for them to be able to succeed. And there is a level of frustration here that isn't in the public media, obviously, because they're not going to talk about it.
Let me make 2 more quick points here. Currently, a little more than 37,000 U.S. forces fighting that war in Afghanistan. And you have about 20,000 international forces that aid and assist as well. And the current plan by the end of next month is to get that 37,000 number down to about 32. So already you're starting this pullback and this drawdown. But what you're watching, and you mentioned this a moment ago, in Fallujah and Ramadi is a comeback for al-Qaeda. The very people we were rooting out just 4 or 5 years ago. Now, how does the military react when they see a story like that and they see the extraordinary gains that they had made now be squandered?
Well, they are very frustrated by what is happening in Iraq, given the sacrifices that we made there and 4,400 Americans killed there. They know that leaving a residual force there would truly have made a difference. And they also know that Malik is a nefarious character, but we would have had influence over him. And we also abandoned him from a policy perspective, not just by not leaving troops. this is being played out again in Afghanistan, and that's what concerns them so much, because they can see the dire consequences of these actions. There's no strategic thinking taking place in terms of where do we want to be 5, 10 years from now in Afghanistan and in that region.
You can almost see it coming. Thank you, General. Jack Keane from Washington. Appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Good talking to you, Bill, as always.